Hi boys and girls, welcome back to Mr. Brakefield Reads. Today is a very special day because we have our very first Mr. Brakefield's Big Book Quiz Lockdown Special. That's right, today we're going to be doing a quiz. So there are going to be 3 rounds in this quiz. The round 1 is all about the twits, round 2 will be about the hodgehog, and round 3 will be a general book knowledge round with questions about a range of different books that hopefully you have either read or heard about. So today what you're going to need is you're going to need a pen or a pencil and something to write on. You might want to compete against other people. You might be doing that over Zoom or House Party or different ways perhaps. It'd be really good if you were. But you might even compete against people in your house. You might compete against mums and dads, or you might want to work in teams with brothers and sisters. It's entirely up to you. But there are going to be 3 rounds, and round 1 is going to start. So round 1 is all about the twits by Roald Dahl. We know lots about it. Let's see how much you do know. Question 1. In chapter 2, Roald Dahl says a person can only truly be ugly if they have what? So, in chapter 2, Roald Dahl says a person can only truly be ugly if they have what? Question 2. What was the name of the glue Mr. Twit painted onto the branches of the big dead tree? What was the name of the glue Mr. Twit painted onto the branches of the big dead tree? Question 3. Which continent is the roly-poly bird from? Which continent is the roly-poly bird from? Remember, boys and girls, if I'm going a little bit quick for you, then you can always pause the video, of course. It's entirely up to you how you do it. Question 4. True or false? Mrs. Twit has a wooden leg. Mrs. Twit has a wooden leg. So is that true or false? Remember, no cheating. You're not allowed the book in front of you when you're answering the questions. No cheating, please. And that goes to mums and dads as well. Thank you. No Googling. Question 5. Which illness did Mr. Twit convince Mrs. Twit she had? Which illness did Mr. Twit convince Mrs. Twit she had? They played some very mean tricks on each other, but this was one of the meanest. Question 6. What did the 4 boys leave behind in the big dead tree after they had escaped? What did the 4 boys leave behind in the big dead tree after they had escaped? It was one of the funniest parts of the book for me, I think. Question 7. What is Mr. Twit's favourite meal? What is Mr. Twit's favourite meal? You're going to need to think very hard about this one. There were a few meals in the book. So, which one was it that was his favourite? Question 8. Which animal did Mr. Twit put in Mrs. Twit's bed? Which animal did Mr. Twit put in Mrs. Twit's bed. Those of you who are looking very closely will notice there is an apostrophe missing there. The apostrophe is missing, of course, in Mrs. Twits. There should be one between the last T and the S. Question 9. What did Mr. and Mrs. Twit go into town to buy? What did Mr. and Mrs. Twit go into town to buy? Giving you about 30 seconds for each question. Okay, and question 10. Roald Dahl wrote the Twits, but who illustrated the book? Roald Dahl wrote the Twits, but who illustrated the book? And if you've got the book in front of you, of course, then you'd know that. And that's why I asked you not to have the book in front of you. Not only for that reason, of course, because you could go and look for all the answers. But I know you wouldn't, because you like to challenge yourselves. Okay, let's go. We're on round 2 now then, boys and girls. Round 2. And we're going to be answering questions about the Hodgehog. Question 1. At what number garden do Max and his family live? You've got some options here. Is it 5A, 5B, or 9A? So at what number garden do Max and his family live? 5A, 5B, or 9A? Question 2. What was the name of Max's auntie who was hit by a car in chapter 1? So what was the name of Max's auntie who was hit by a car in chapter 1? This was very early on in the book, of course. This was what started the whole thought about safety for hedgehogs. Crossing the road to get to that park. Question 3. A tough one, and you're going to need all the names for this one. What is Max's full name? So what is Max's full name? It's quite a long name. You don't need to worry too much about spelling, of course, for any of these questions, but you need to have every single name correct. Question 4. Max's sisters, Peony, Pansy, and Petunia, are all named after what? Max's sisters, Peony, Pansy, and Petunia, are all named after what? Question 5. Which vehicle did Max get hit by first when crossing the road in chapter 3? Which vehicle did Max get hit by first when crossing the road in chapter 3? Remember, if you need more time with any of these questions, just pause the video and then you can take that time. Question 6. What is the name of the crossing that has a red and green man signal? What is the name of the crossing that has a red and green man signal? Remember, Max liked the idea that it could be a red and green hedgehog, and Rosalind in year 2 created one. So that was fantastic to see, wasn't it? Question 7. What was the name of the dog food that Pa stole from the garden of 5B? What was the name of the dog food that Pa stole from the garden of 5B? He felt very guilty about it, didn't he, when the hedgehog in 5B was so friendly and helped Max later on in the book. Question 8. What do Max's sisters first call the friendly hedgehog at 5B? So what do Max's sisters first call the friendly hedgehog at 5B? Now, if you remember, Pa couldn't stand him really. He wasn't keen on the hedgehog at 5B, but he obviously respected him and liked him when he'd helped Max out. They became quite good friends. Question 9. The sign at the factory reads max speed 5 mph. What do the letters mph stand for? So each of those letters is the beginning of a word, but what words are they? So the sign at the factory reads max speed 5 mph. What do the letters mph stand for? Question 10. In chapter 8, Max first saw the lady who stopped traffic with a magic wand. Who was she? In chapter 8, Max first saw the lady who stopped traffic with a magic wand. Who was she? Well, I don't need her name, of course, but we need to know what job she did. What was the job that she did? We're going to be ready to go on to round 3 now. Round 3 is a general book knowledge round, so there'll be 10 questions about lots of different books. Hopefully, many of them you'll recognise. Question 1. Which author wrote The World's Worst Teachers? Which author wrote The World's Worst Teachers? It's a hilarious book and thankfully does not include me. Or does it? No, I don't think it does. I don't think I'm on there. Question 2. What was the name of the family that Paddington Bear lived with? What was the name of the family that Paddington Bear lived with? Now this is perhaps a little bit unfair because year 2s have read Paddington Bear and they should know this, no pressure. I know lots of people have read Paddington Bear. In Linley Dodd's series of books, where was Harry McClary from? In Linley Dodd's series of books, where was Harry McClary from? Most people surely have either read it, had it read to them as a bedtime story. Surely, Harry McClary. But where was he from? Question 4. Complete the title of B.J. Novak's hilarious book, My Book with no what? Complete the title of B.J. Novak's hilarious book, My Book with no... I know we've got this book at school. I know people have read this. I've had it read to them for sure. Question 5. Jill Murphy wrote a series of books about the large family. What type of animal are they? Jill Murphy wrote a series of books about the large family. What type of animal are they? You've got some options. Are they bears, elephants, or giraffes? Are they bears, elephants, or giraffes? The large family. 5 minutes piece is my favourite, I think, out of that series of books. Question 6. In Oliver Jeffers' Lost and Found, a boy takes a penguin home. To which pole did they row? Was it the north or the south? The North Pole or the South Pole? In Oliver Jeffers' Lost and Found, a boy takes a penguin home. To which pole did they row? Did they row to the north or the south? Question 7. In the Kess Gray book, Oi, frog. Frogs sit on logs. But what sits on frogs? In the Kess Gray book, Oi, frog. Frogs sit on logs. But what sits on frogs? And it says of frogs there. It should be on frogs. Question 8. Complete the title of Enid Blyton's classic book, The Something Wood. Complete the title of Enid Blyton's classic book, The Something Wood. This would be a book that mums and dads, even grandmas and granddads, may have read as well as some of the children out there. Question 9. In Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, what is Charlie's last name? So in Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, what is Charlie's last name? We call a last name a surname. So my surname is Brakefield. David Walliams' surname is Walliams. Boris Johnson's surname is Johnson. What's Charlie's surname from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? And question 10. Who hosts a tea party in Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland? Who hosts a tea party in Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland? Now, there are two possible answers here. You don't need both, just one will be fine. There are two possible answers. Right, we're going to go to our answers now. We're going to mark our answers, so be ready to mark them. If somebody else is marking them for you, then you may need to give them your answer sheet before we start. So answers for round 1. Number 1, so you can only be truly ugly if you have ugly thoughts. Number 2, it was hug tight glue. Number 3, the roly-poly bird was from Africa. Number 4, no, Mrs. Twit does not have a wooden leg. She has a glass eye, however, but not a wooden leg, so it was false. 5, Mr. Twit convinced Mrs. Twit she was getting smaller, and thus she had the shrinks. Question 6 was their pants. The boys left their pants. They went home with their bare bottoms showing. Question 7, it's bird pie. His favourite meal was bird pie. It says that very clearly. Not spaghetti, but bird pie. Question 8, a frog. Mr. Twit put a frog in Mrs. Twit's bed. Question 9, Mr. and Mrs. Twit went to get guns from the town. And question 10 was Quentin Blake. Quentin Blake was the illustrator of the Twits. Roald Dahl was the author. Quentin Blake was the illustrator. Right, moving. Answers for round 2. So Max and his family lived at 5A. Number 2, it was Auntie Betty, who unfortunately got knocked over. Question 3, Victor Maximilian St. George was Max's full name. Question 4, peony, pansy and petunia are all types of flowers. And that's what the girls were named after. Question 5, it was a bike or a bicycle. Whichever you've written is absolutely fine. Question 6 was a pelican crossing. Question 7, munchy meat. Question 8 was Uncle B. It was the the hedgehog from 5B. Question 9, miles per hour is what MPH stands for. Miles per hour. And question 10, it wasn't a magical lady, it was a lollipop lady. Answers for round 3 now. So the author of The World's Worst Children, not children, he did write that as well, but The World's Worst Teachers was David Walliams. Number 2, it was the Brown family. You just put Brown or Browns, that would be fine. The Brown family, they took in Paddington Bear when he had nowhere else to go. Number 3, it was Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy, of course. Number 4, it was my book with no pictures. Question 5, the large family were a family of elephants. Question 6. Penguins are found at the South Pole, and so the boy rode all the way to the South Pole. Question 7. Dogs. Dogs sit on frogs. Question 8. It was The Enchanted Wood. The Enchanted Wood by Enid Blyton. Question 9. Charlie Bucket was the answer. And question 10. Well, it was The Hatter and March Hare. If you put Mad Hatter, you get a point for that. That's fine. If you put March Hare, you get a point. If you put Hatter, that's fine too. What I didn't know until fairly recently was that actually it was the Hatter that was written about in Lewis Carroll's book, not the Mad Hatter. He describes him as mad, but he never calls him the Mad Hatter. But anyway, that's me being particular about it, but still. So mark your scores. What did you get out of 30? I'd love to find out. I'd love to know what you got. So for now, stay safe, happy reading. I hope you did really well on this quiz. And let me think, what have we got to do next? So on Friday, we've got Picture Book Friday, and then next Sunday, we'll have a brand new book. But for now, take care and happy reading. Bye, boys and girls.